Lecture 2 Part 2 3.0 China's Economic Reforms and Comparative Advantage, Strategic Realignment in a Post-Planning Era. 3.1 Embracing Specialization Through Comparative Advantage. The incorporation of comparative advantage into China's development strategy marked a pivotal shift in the nation's economic philosophy. Initially, acceptance of specialization gains was gradual. China's policy elite displayed hesitance in adjusting to global trade norms that favored specialization based on factor endowments. However, this stance began to change significantly in the 1980s and 1990s as evidence mounted in favor of trade-driven growth. Once embraced, comparative advantage quickly influenced trade and industrial policy. The Chinese economy witnessed a rapid expansion of labor-intensive manufactured exports, while simultaneously importing capital and technology-intensive goods. Lin, 2012. This allowed the country to benefit from global value chains and climb the technological ladder. The gains from trade strengthened support for further liberalization, Lin Yufo notes, adding that a dynamic application of comparative advantage was essential to sustaining long-term growth. Lin, 2011. 3.2 Institutionalization of Ricardian theory in Chinese development thinking. The principles of Ricardian trade theory, once peripheral to official Chinese policy discourse, gradually became mainstream through both academic and political channels. As China entered the 21st century, these concepts were embedded into national development thinking. Institutions such as the Center for New Structural Economics at Peking University, led by Professor Justin Yufo Lin, became instrumental in advocating a development model based on evolving comparative advantage and structural transformation. President Xi Jinping has also acknowledged the role of trade in China's economic rise, stating that opening up has been a key driver of China's reform and development over the past 40 years. Xi, 2018. Academic and policy synergy has thus played a vital role in disseminating trade theory across government and scholarly platforms. 3.3 Ideological legacies and their constraints. During the first decade of reforms, China's policy trajectory remained partially constrained by the ideological inheritance of the CPC, heavily influenced by Marx, Lenin, Stalin, and Mao. However, Maoist ideology, while deeply embedded in political culture, proved to be the least obstructive when it came to economic pragmatism. What mattered to Deng and his successors was results, not dogma, argues Naughton, 2007, emphasizing the leadership's shift from ideological orthodoxy to performance-based legitimacy. This ideological flexibility allowed the leadership to selectively adopt policies that deviated from socialist planning while maintaining centralized political control. 3.4 Reforming the planning system, institutional and capacity challenges. The dismantling of the central planning system required more than policy directives. It necessitated a transformation of regulatory frameworks, administrative capacity, and institutional logic. The CPC faced the dual challenge of building a functioning regulatory state while retaining political dominance. Implementation depended heavily on developing new legal, administrative, and educational systems to support a reformed market economy. Smith, 2016. Despite significant gains, challenges persisted, especially at the local level, where disparities in institutional capability hindered consistent policy enforcement. 4.0 China's economic and political evolution, crisis, resilience, and structural adjustment. 4.1 Crises as catalysts for change. China's development path has been marked by a cyclical pattern of tension and reform, often triggered by economic and political crises. Each decadal milestone in the reform era was accompanied by heightened pressure both internally and externally. By the 10th anniversary of reforms, 1988-89, China was grappling with dual pricing distortions, inflationary pressures, and widespread corruption. These imbalances created public dissatisfaction and contributed to the 1989 political crisis. The repercussions were felt across East Asia. China's growth stalled, contributing to a broader recession in the Western Pacific in 1990-91, OECD, 1992. 4.2 Reform recovery and the Southern Tour. Despite setbacks, reform momentum was reignited following Deng Xiaoping's Southern Tour in 1992, which served as a political endorsement of deeper market liberalization and global integration. According to Vogel, 2011, Deng's tour effectively reasserted the primacy of economic reform over ideological retrenchment, p. 397. This endorsement facilitated the rapid growth of non-state and private sectors, boosting foreign investment and accelerating trade expansion through the 1990s. 4.3 Resilience through the Asian financial crisis, 1997-98. During the Asian financial crisis, China distinguished itself by refusing to devalue the renminbi, which many saw as a stabilizing move for the region. Simultaneously, the government introduced domestic stimulus measures to protect employment and incomes. The strategy proved effective in the short run, but it also entrenched dependence on investment-led growth, leading to long-term structural distortions. The crisis exposed vulnerabilities in China's financial system and underscored the urgency of reform, notes Lardy, 2002. 4.4 WTO accession and limited integration. China's accession to the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2001 marked a formal commitment to the global trade regime. However, the process of aligning domestic systems with international standards remained partial. Many sectors continued to operate under state control, and structural reforms in areas such as finance and services lagged behind. China's WTO accession was a milestone of globalization, but its deep integration remained constrained by political considerations. Pei, 2000.